Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you a quick and easy recipe for making British rock cakes. The first step in this recipe is to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. Once the oven is on and getting up to temperature, sift together 225 grams of self-raising flour with a teaspoon of baking powder to a stainless steel mixing bowl before sifting in 75 grams of caster sugar. To these dry ingredients, add 125 grams of soft butter that has been cut into squares. Rub everything together using your fingertips until it comes together and starts to resemble breadcrumbs. Don't worry about getting your hands dirty, it can be a little messy. Once it does resemble breadcrumbs, add 150 grams of dried fruit to the mixture and combine with a silicone spatula. I use dried mixed vine fruit in this instance as this is traditional and I thoroughly enjoy it. Rock cakes are a classic British dessert that first appeared in 1861 in a cookbook by the famous Mrs. Beeton. They were popularised by the British Ministry of Food during the Second World War when the country was under strict rationing because the recipe required fewer eggs and less sugar than ordinary cakes, so enabled people to still enjoy sweet treats during such a dreadful time. During the war, sometimes oats would be added to the mixture to replace some of the flour due to oats being able to bulk out the cakes and because they were more readily available at the time. No matter that they were made trendy by such a terrible situation, rock cakes are still enjoyed in many British households to this day, mine being one of them. After mixing the dry ingredients, in a separate clean bowl, beat a fresh egg with 1 tablespoon of a milk of your choice and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Once the egg is completely beaten with no large chunks of yolk or white, add the wet ingredients to the dry ones and mix it all together. Please forgive the drip at the end of my whisk. It bothered me something terrible while editing this video, but I didn't notice it in the moment, so forgive me for the oversight. It won't happen again. After mixing the wet and dry ingredients, the dough you end up with should be thick and lumpy. If you find it to be too dry, you can add a teaspoon more of milk to help everything stick together, but be careful not to add too much since you don't want a wet or sloppy mixture for these rocks. The rationing in Britain I spoke of earlier was precipitated by Nazi Germany invading Poland in September 1939, which caused Britain and France to declare war on Germany. As a net importer of food at the time, and with World War I still fresh in the country's mind, the British Ministry of Food had started preparing for disaster as early as 1936 by stockpiling and preparing food control policies, and by 1939 the ministry had already printed 50 million ration books. The first item to be rationed was petrol, but this was quickly followed by foodstuffs, the first being bacon, ham, butter and sugar in 1940. Other products were quickly added, especially those that were normally imported or came from scarce animal sources such as meat, cheese, margarine, eggs, milk, tea, breakfast cereal, rice and biscuits. By mid-1942, most foodstuffs were rationed except fresh fruit and vegetables, fish and bread. Other rationed commodities included clothing, shoes, fuel and soap. As the war continued, the ministry created classifications based on age and occupation to make the rationing system more refined and fair, entitling adults with manual jobs to higher rations than other adults while children received smaller rations. Although rationing was very strict and a major change for most British people, it was done in such a way that no one fell short of their basic nutritional requirements, the main exception of this being the German-occupied Channel Islands, which suffered a severe food crisis during the final months of the war and occupation. While the war came to an end in May 1945, this didn't mean an end to rationing in Britain. Shortages persisted and bread, which had been freely available during the war, was rationed from July 1946 for 2 years. Animal products such as cheese, bacon, ham, meat and fats, as well as sugar, also remained scarce, and it wasn't until mid-1954 that rationing was finally ended. Back to the recipe. Once the dough is mixed and ready, make golf ball sized balls and place them onto a greased baking tray or a tray lined with parchment paper. There's no need to flatten the balls before they go into the oven, since once they are in there they will flatten and spread out while they bake. They will also double in size as they cook, so make sure to space them out enough so they can do this. When putting them in the oven, ideally the tray will be placed in the middle, as this is the sweet spot where they will receive the best air circulation, the heat will be even, and neither the tops nor the bottoms will be at risk of baking too quickly and burning. This also goes for cakes, cookies and brownies. After 15 to 20 minutes your cakes will be golden brown. Mine took 15 minutes, but all ovens are different and that's okay, we're all different too. Allow the cakes to cool on a baking tray for a couple of minutes before transferring them to a wire rack where they can continue cooling. These cakes are best enjoyed warm and are extra delicious with a cup of tea in my opinion. They are a big hit in my home and I'm sure they'll be a big hit in yours too. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it and I would love to know if you try making these yourself. I've added the ingredients and recipe in the description below for your interest. Enjoy the rest of your day if it is just beginning, or have a lovely evening if it is coming to an end. Hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.